I'm Socrates Garrett, and we're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, the heart of the Deep South, right here in the African-American-owned broadcasting studio. WeBelieveDigital.com, our own platform. And so it's critically important that in the African-American community, we control the narrative. I look forward to receiving opportunities to show and advertise your products for goods and services and to move your brand along in this community. We're broadcasting live on Facebook. On We Believe Digital Podcast, go to Roku and download our app, and We Believe Global, with shows like this to bring articulate, intelligent conversations and dialogue to our platform. So I'm here to continue sounding the alarm. This is how the South is going to rise again. Good evening, and welcome to Socrates Garrett Live. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, in the heart of the deep, deep South. Mississippi, where I'd like to say that the air is just a little bit cleaner and the grass is just a little bit greener down south. You know, one day the South shall rise again, and we look forward to that day when all Mississippians can move off of the bottom to some comfortable position, whether it's in the middle class or above. It can happen. You know, Mississippi is a wonderful state, got great climate, great places to play golf, and great places to fish. We're not the type of state that has an economy that's booming. We don't boom nor bust. We just remain basically the same all of the time down in Mississippi. It is a great place for retirement, you know, because of the climate and the proximity. You know, we're 200 miles away from Memphis, Tennessee, 200 miles away from Mobile, Alabama, 200 miles away from Shreveport, Louisiana, 200 miles from Birmingham. Anywhere you're going, we're only 200 miles away from Memphis, Tennessee. And so you see, we should be the economic hub of the South. We have an intersection of I-55 and I-20 right here in Jackson, Mississippi. We have the mighty Pearl River that flows down through our capital city. So we have all of the natural resources to make this a wonderful, vibrant place to live, work, and raise a family. Now, naturally, all of you know out there, we're being seen in over 139 different countries. We've been seen on Facebook, on YouTube, on Roku TV, and our very own platform, WeBelieveDigital.com. Now, we're different than most stations in that on our own platform, we have the ability to have categories, and under those categories are various channels. For example, we have a category called Inspiration. Underneath Inspiration, you'll find several of the bishops that have their sermons underneath there in their own individual channel. Now, what makes us different is that on Sunday morning, only on We Believe Digital can you have multiple churches going live at 8 o'clock at the same time. You see, on most media outlets, you can only buy 8 o'clock and only go to one client, and then whoever can get the next hour gets that. But at We Believe, we go live with multiple clients at 8 o'clock on every Sunday morning. So you see, we're different. We have categories like Marketplace, where you can look in there and shop, and we take items on consignment so that we'll help you sell your books and sell your paraphernalia and the things that you want to make available to the community. Also, we have We Believe Radio. Now, that's an internet-based radio, and we're broadcasting all over the world. We're networking with over 25 different internet radio stations right now, and so it's growing every day, and we hope to one day be the only media outlet that has the newspaper tied to it, that has the podcast broadcast to it, and has the internet radio portion tied to it. So we are looking forward to doing wonderful things. Now, we'd like to make the station available to you and for your own podcast shows or for your own recordings and things of that nature. It's very reasonable rates. You know, we can talk to you about that later if you want to talk about advertising or buying spots here. You do it at 800-492-5186. You can also call into our show tonight and join the conversation that we're going to have. Now, my normal co-host is a little bit under the weather and has speaking engagements all across the country, Dr. Eldridge Henderson, and he will not be here with us this evening. But I have a gentleman that I've known for quite a long time, and I thought it would be a good idea if he would introduce himself and his candidacy to all of Mississippi and all of the world and talk about what it is, what his vision is that he would like to see implemented here in our capital city. So, Vern Gavin, Supervisor Vern Gavin, welcome to We Believe Digital. How are you, sir?
I am doing well, Mr. Garrett. It's so wonderful to be here, and thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure to come and be able to express the views of Hinds County with your listening audience and to let them know that Hinds County is positive and moving forward.
Well, I'm glad that you're going to be able to do that because, Vern, as you know, we're getting a lot of negative publicity on the national scene that are always talking about the crisis that we have and the incompetence that we have in our elected leadership in the state of Mississippi. So share with me your thoughts on, have we earned that distinction or are we being misaligned?
Well, I think a good illustration of that would be, I think, on one of your competitive channels where they did a renderance of the insurrection of January 6th. Mm-hmm. And as you recall, it was presented by your from the other network, I'll just say it that way, as if it was a peaceful visit. And if you looked at the presentation that they presented, it presented as if it were just tourist people walking through the Capitol. and they were walking through the Capitol and just all in amaze at how wonderful and historical it was for them to just walk through the Capitol. Now, my point for bringing that up is this. Negativity somehow sells.
Oh, okay.
And so as a result of that, we get in the negative blows across the nation. And some of it, we have our flaws. We have a water issue now that, is there and there's no denying it, but that water issue didn't just pop up today. It was years and years in the making, and it was neglected by the powers at be at that time. So that publicity is spewing out there, just like that network that I just mentioned. It's going because that kind of negativity sells.
Yeah. And let me just add to this in terms of the due diligence or the kicking the can down the road, the things that was not done that maybe should have been done to circumvent or avoid the crisis that we recently had. Many mayors said they just didn't have the money to do the necessary repairs and the maintenance on their infrastructure because of their Jackson is 40% of Jacksonians live below the poverty level. And when you have that kind of a base, it's hard to do maintenance. What say you?
Well, it's not. If you got that kind of a base, it's hard to do maintenance primarily because there's a general tendency of paying attention to the base that's higher in terms of their economic wealth. And so as a result of that, there's a lot of neglect, if you will, in certain areas where attention is paid elsewhere. Wow. Now, the situation that we have as it relates to the water issue, that goes back, I can recall, back to, if you remember, back in the Harvey Johnson days. I think that was one of Harvey's first, as mayor, that was one of his first requests of the state government, is to support refurbishing that water system.
Harvey Johnson was the first African-American mayor elected in Jackson, Mississippi back in 1997, I believe. And we've had African-American mayors ever since Harvey Johnson in 1997.
That is correct. And so as a result of that, that just to go the emphasis is on how far it has gone back. It was recognized when he first came in office. So it meant that it wasn't just arriving when he came in office. It was there prior to that. But as a result of it, and the kicking the can, as the phrase you use, down the road, it's gotten to a point now where it can't be kicked anymore. And so what is happening is the constituents are being fed negativity that they want to blame the present administration for all of that neglect that was taking place 20 plus 30 years ago.
Well, I'm told that politics is a contact sport. So people feed negativity in order to be able to get themselves elected or get someone unelected. Is it a method to the madness that you're describing?
There is absolutely a method to the madness, and the negativity. And what you have to do is your due diligence as a listener. You have to do your due diligence to assess the motive behind the message that is being presented. And you have to be able to discern from that. You have to go and do your research to discern what is actual truth.
Well, it's just not in Mississippi, though, Vern. I think that we see that kind of behavior on a national level. I mean, the election between President Trump and some of the Republican nominees at the time, some of those contacts that were made were totally inappropriate and were quite frankly embarrassing to the country. I thought he treated Jeb Bush just really rude and uncalled for during the debate. So it's politics, just an ugly sport.
It is, like you said, it is a contact sport. And the situation is that you are out to win. It is unfortunate that at this day and time is win by any means necessary.
Does that mean you don't have to tell the truth?
Well, I think it has evolved to that, so it boils down to your own personal character. My assessment is the truth will override. I firmly believe that, and if you follow that method now, if people are in a quick fix mode of thinking, then that won't prevail. But if they have the time to actually discern, it'll come to light. And I feel very strongly that if you tell the truth and if you do the best that you can with the work that you have to do, then eventually it'll survive. And that's what I'm counting on.
And so they say as long as you're able to look at the man in the mirror and feel good about it, then
that is the truth in itself. But then now in this day and age, and I will go back to one of those presidents that you mentioned, but I won't call name, but they somewhat has made telling a lie an acceptable thing. So now it becomes whether I can be victorious with the lie that I'm telling. So now I look in the mirror and I can smile because if I feel that I'm being victorious with it, then I'm going to keep doing it.
Well,
that's not me now. That's the other side of the
But the truth is hard to discern. Let's go back even under President Bush when Colin Powell told him that he didn't see any mass weapons destruction over in Iraq. But nobody listened.
Okay.
And so, I mean, painting a picture that fits the needs, your desires, is something that we see being done every day at the national and the local levels.
That is true. What you're finding is people now are finding your sensitive spot. And this is not new, it's just now being exploited more.
Right.
So they are finding your sensitive spot and they're finding the news that you want to hear. And so as a result, they're pumping you with that kind of news.
So we have this vicious struggle between Democrats and Republicans. And it seems as if, both sides will do anything to win. But one thing I notice about it is that the divide is being taken advantage of by most people who said that a common enemy, in Mississippi especially, is always black versus white or white versus black. And since the Republican Party is 99% white and the Democratic Party should be probably the same almost, then naturally you got a black and white fight between those two organizations.
Well, I think, and that's, you have to look at that in a way, Sock, that who benefits from that? Mm. You know, is the person who's, if you will, at the top is, let's just say he's a what they call it? Puppeteer. And he's pulling the strings. So now what he's doing is spewing a lot of rhetoric in your direction, the kind of rhetoric that he sensed that you want to hear. And so as a result of that, he can get you and manipulate you into doing things that even is not to your own benefit.
Wow. Okay, so we kind of laid the foundation that politics is a contact sport. It's somewhat vicious. It can be ugly, and that's just the way it is.
That's just the way it is.
And so let's get down to a more local level.
Okay.
In Mississippi, we have a lot of elections. And we have an election now for the governor, the highest office in the state of Mississippi. And the governor is running along with your lieutenant governor and your speaker of the House. And these are the three most powerful people in the state of Mississippi. In the Democratic Party, we have a candidate, Brandon Presley, who many thinks has a chance to unseat the incumbent, Tate Reeves. You think that's possible?
I think, you know, Mr. Presley, the name itself carries a lot of weight in Mississippi. Okay, and I think his reputation in terms of the offices that he's held and the job that he's done, I think that carries a lot of weight too. So he's not just riding off of the Elvis Presley era, but he's also, you know, in carrying his own merits to the constituents in Mississippi for their support. So I think he has a reasonable chance. Yes.
Now, a good friend of mine, an African American, Bob Hickenbottom.
I know Bob.
Bob was signed up to run for governor of the state of Mississippi as a Democratic candidate. But he recently was denied the opportunity. They said he was disqualified and cannot run. So he's now suing the Democratic Party. Bob Hickenbottom is no stranger to politics. You would think that he would know the rules and that he would comply with that if he wanted to run for governor. But many think that he was in the race to be a spoiler for Brandon Presley by dividing the black vote in strategic counties.
You know, I know Bob, and I didn't know that he was planning to run, so I can't really speak to that. But there, as we were speaking about politics, there's all kinds of demons out there, and there's all kinds of manipulations and maneuvers that are being thrown into the scenario in order to better their chances of a win, somebody's chance of a win. And so, with that being said, I don't know what the criteria were for screening him out, but I would like to think that they did the proper vetting in order to do so.
Well, I can tell you this. I know Bob Hickenbottom well, and you kind of don't want to stoke the bear. I mean, he can create some real issues and some real problems for you out there. So I hope the Democratic Party and Bob can come to terms where that he will be a proactive person in the Democratic contest versus one that has been stoked or one that has been agitated, that now he's really going to go out and help the Republican candidate.
Well, you know, Bob has been a Democrat for most of the time that I've known him, and I would hope that whatever that decision that was made would have been one that at least he may not have favored, but at least he could reconcile with.
And so we have to go back. I know that we're dealing with politics now, and we're going to come down into local elections later on. But even in the situation that you got to be aware of, that an African American signed up to run for governor in the last election.
Yes. And
quite frankly, nobody even know his name, and he beat a very prominent Democratic candidate in Luckett for governor. And so African Americans can elect a Democratic candidate of their own. African Americans can do that.
And and rightfully so. And you would like to think in this great country of America that we would all feel that we have an opportunity to win in any party, because you should not just have to be 100% or 90% black Democratic Party in order to be elected. If you are a viable candidate and if you're running as a Republican, Democrat, or Independent, you should be judged based upon your merits.
Yeah. I can recall years ago that I went to a fundraiser, and it was a fundraiser for a Republican candidate for some office.
Okay.
And one of the gentlemen walked up to me and he said, Socrates, he said, 10% of the people in this room are Democrats, and 10% of these people in the room are Republicans. 80% of the people in this room are business people. And so I understood that as a business person, you have to participate in this political arena because, quite frankly, there is no better customer than the government.
Correct.
Yeah. So now, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
Do you predict that Tate Reeves will be defeated by Brandon Presley in the election?
I will not be able to make a prediction at this point because I just haven't had enough review of the polls and what have you out there. But I think that Presley has an equal chance of competing for the position. And I think I would say equal to perhaps even a point or two above.
Okay, you heard it here, that Supervisor Gavin thinks that Brandon Presley has more than an equal shot as becoming the first Democratic governor in the state of Mississippi that we've had in a long, long time. And so we'll keep our eyes on that. It's time for us to go to a station break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcasting needs.
We're back at Socrates Garrett Live. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, in the heart of the deep, deep South. We Believe Digital Broadcast Studios. We have podcast shows that are running throughout the day, throughout the entire week. We've launched the internet radio station that we have great music that's playing 24 hours a day. We need your support. If you're watching this program on YouTube, we ask that you go on and subscribe to YouTube. Our subscribers are growing every day, but we need to get to 10,000. That's our immediate goal. If you're watching us on Facebook, we want you to share this program with your friends and family. Also, we want you to send us stars, help us monetize this program. If you're watching us on WeBelieveDigital.com, then we want you to hit the donate button. Send us some funds. Help us keep this program growing and moving in the right direction. So we've been seen in over 139 countries on YouTube, Facebook, Roku, and WeBelieveDigital.com. So the projects and the program is growing. We're looking for great talent. So if you're interested in joining our team, call 800-492-5186. If you want to buy some advertising space or have your own podcast program, you can call that same number. Now, my guest this evening is Supervisor Vern Gavin. We've talked about a lot of things on the state election platforms, and now we're going to talk a little bit about races that he's more immediately involved in. Supervisor.
Yes, sir.
How many supervisors do we have on the board?
Well, by state statute, each county has 5 supervisors.
Every county in Mississippi.
Each county has 5 supervisors.
The poorest counties and the wealthiest counties all have 5.
5 supervisors, yes.
Regardless to your population, you have 5.
5.
Some might say that some counties don't need 5.
Some may say that. but statute says so different.
But statute says you got to have it.
Yes.
And so is Hinds County, you're a supervisor here in Hinds County.
Yes, I am.
What size, how does Hinds County rank with the other counties in the state of Mississippi?
Well, as you know, Hinds County is the largest populated county in the state of Mississippi. We also is the capital county for the state of Mississippi, which houses Jackson, which is the county seat. The capital for the state. So we are the largest populated county in the state of Mississippi.
I believe there are 82 counties.
That is correct.
82 counties in the state of Mississippi. So my quick math tells me there are 410 supervisors.
That's good math. Okay.
And you happen to be one of those in Hinds County. You are the incumbent. I
am the incumbent. Yes, indeed. As you know, this is election season now. So the primary election is going to be August 8th. And that's for the primary for each party. And there, of course, a runoff election will be, I think it's 2 weeks or 3 weeks after that, if there's a runoff. And then the general election is going to be in November, the second Tuesday in November.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about it. Since we got 5 supervisors.
Yes.
They got 5 districts then.
That is correct.
Let's take them one at a time. In District 1, who is the incumbent and does he have any opposition?
In District 1, we have Supervisor Robert Graham, and he is the incumbent for that position. He has 2 opponents, and I don't want to get too much into this because I'm going to mess up some names because I can't remember all of those names.
Yeah,
okay?
No problem.
But he does have 2, and in that particular case, I think one is named Chrysler, and the other one is Hodge.
Okay, all right. So how long has Supervisor Graham been elected?
According to my recall, he was elected in 2008.
2008. So he's been there quite some time.
Yes.
And so he now has 2 people who thinks that he is not doing a good job.
Apparently so. They are contesting his position.
And so they decided that they will run against him.
Correct.
I do know that Eva Chrysler is also running in that race, and she is the wife of Marshawn Chrysler.
Correct.
Marshawn Chrysler is also running for sheriff in Hinds County during this election cycle. So it's going to be a lot of fireworks there, and that's a family deal there. And so Supervisor Graham has some people with a lot of name recognition that have opposed him in this year's election. Now, go ahead.
Yes, I can't, like I said, I can't remember first names a lot in this case, so bear with me on that. But Ms. Chrysler is, from what I understand, she is a resident of Hinds County, and she and Marshawn, of course, husband and wife. And so Marshawn is running for sheriff. Yeah. So I would imagine that they will both be out there on the campaign trail working in tandem with each other.
I understand that her residency was contested by Supervisor Graham in an attempt to disqualify her from running for the race. And I heard the comments of Marshawn, he was a sheriff of Hinds County for a brief period of time, I believe.
Yes.
And he said, how can you question her residency when she's his wife? And so I thought that was interesting. So Supervisor Graham will be hard to beat. He's been there since 2008. And so he knows the district well. He knows where the voters are. And so he's got 2 people that campaigned against him. Now, LaGillia Hodge is a relative newcomer to politics, But I know she's a member there at New Jerusalem Church, where Pastor Dwayne Pickett is her pastor.
Okay.
And she's an engineer. And so I know that she has a great deal of talent. But I think this is her first time that she's running for politics. So it'll be interesting to watch that race.
Yeah, I think so. I've had an opportunity only once to meet her, and I've seen some information on her. If I'm not mistaken, she's in a high technical field. I think she's either an engineer or architect.
She is that.
And so that would be a major contribution to the board of supervisors with that kind of talent. So it's. Everybody, I think that's running in that race has something to offer. So
yeah, it's going to be
Supervisor Graham, and he's been there for a long time, so his tenure has some merits. But these young people who are coming, particularly in Miss Chrysler as well as Miss Hart, they both bringing some very valuable tools to the.
They are, and that's what we need. We need talented people to offer themselves for these offices.
Right.
People that have the capacity to manage a $300 million budget. And so it's critically important, as you say. Now, in District 2, we have a young man, David Archie. David has been probably one of the most flamboyant supervisors that we've seen in a long, long time. I've known David for a long time. He was an advocate and a people's rights advocate, and I've watched him fight for the rights of others for a long, long time. I recall the march that he had up in Canton, Mississippi, when we were alleged discrimination and things of that nature was going on up there, and he offered himself up in that regard. Many questions his tactics. I think that he has brought more attention to the Board of Supervisors than anyone else has in the last 25 years. Be that positive or negative, I think that is the rap sheet on Supervisor Archie. I believe he has one candidate that's running against him.
In actuality, he has two.
Does he?
You have on the Democratic ticket, he has Anthony Tony Smith, who's out there beating the trail right now. Tony is a businessman. I think he's worked in real estate development over a period of time, and he constantly says that at times that I've sat in when he was giving his campaign speech. And he has built some real estate investments over the years that he indicates that he's been very successful with.
Okay.
So he brings that, the entrepreneurial spirit to the board as well. So from that end, I think he has a merit that would have to be reckoned with by David.
Okay.
You indicated he's more flamboyant, David is. And well, I would say it another way, but I think it sometimes worked to our detriment more so than to our positive. But, each person has his own personality, so I'm not going to sit there to determine his effectiveness if that's what he thinks works for him. That would be up to the constituents to determine whether they are pleased with his actions or not.
Yeah, and as you say, the proof's in the pudding. So you mentioned that he might have another candidate that I was not aware of.
Okay, the other candidate he's actually running independent, and he was the incumbent when David first ran in office. So they ran against each other and that's in Darryl McQuarter.
Oh, Darryl McQuarter.
Darryl McQuarter. He's running as an independent in this particular race.
I wonder why did he choose to run as an independent? He was a former supervisor, ran as a Democrat, I believe.
Yes.
And so this time is the politics, the demographics in the district changed to a point where running as an independent is now a good thing?
Well, I can't address that issue. I don't know what was his strategy for running as an independent. I could speculate if that's what you want to hear, but my speculation would be that it was a contested race as it relates to David Archie living in the house that he claimed residency in, and there was a lot of pictures that was shown of that house, which was, in my opinion, very evident that no one lived in that house. And so I think from the meetings and the court hearings and other things that I sat in on, I think that may have a barren impact on why he chose to go independent. I can't speak to it, but that's my speculation.
Good. So let's move right along. We get to District 3. Many people think that he is a career politician. I believe that's Credell Calhoun.
Okay.
Credell Calhoun is the current supervisor, and has he drawn opposition?
Credell has opposition as well, and matter of fact, he indicates that he's a career politician. If you talk to him long enough, he'll tell you that he was in the legislature for 40 years. And that is to let you be aware of the fact that he understands how the laws are made and how the political atmosphere is worked and manipulated. So as a result of that, he's there with Hinds County on our board at this time, and he's been very instrumental in working with the legislature from the board to bring some resources to Hinds County.
Now, he's a career politician. That being said, then he has served as a member of the city council for the city of Jackson, I believe.
That's correct.
He served for several years in the legislature, I believe.
Correct. Well, the 40 years is what he referenced in the legislature. So imagine I don't know how many terms he served on city council, but I think it was at least one term.
Oh, yeah, I think it was at least that, maybe two.
Maybe two.
And then he has been on the board of supervisors for how long?
Well, he actually went in, when I went in, that was in 2020. So he's only been on the board of supervisors for coming up 4 years.
4 years.
Yes.
So many people would think that he's been there much longer because he's a career politician, if you will. Now,
well,
he probably wouldn't even call himself a politician. I'm not sure.
Well, he talks about his experience as being in the legislature. I haven't heard him say the word politician, him being a politician.
All right.
But as you know, he is actually occupying the seat that his wife, Peggy Calhoun, was occupying. So sometimes people remember the name Calhoun and they associate him versus his wife.
Okay, so he's a seasoned politician, a guy that knows how to run campaigns and get himself elected if he's been doing it for 40 years. Has he drawn opposition?
Well, he has one opposition, and that is the same opposition that he had 4 years ago.
Okay.
And this young lady now, I can't think of her name.
Deborah Dixon.
Deborah Dixon.
Yeah.
She's out campaigning now. I've seen some of her signs out and some other things. I don't know very much more other than the fact that she did serve in the legislature, I believe, one term. And so now she's running for this position.
Okay. All right. Well, that's going to be a contested race as well. So I didn't know that they had ran against each other once before.
Yeah.
So it's a rematch.
It's a rematch, yes.
Okay. All right. So then we'll move on to District 5.
Okay, we're going to go to District 5.
We're going to go to District 5. Now, District 5, I watched District 5 for years and years with Supervisor George Smith. And I always watched that a lot of people went to bed claiming they had won the election, just to wake up the next morning and find that box down in Terry, Mississippi, which came in late every year, George Smith would be ultimately declared the winner. And so District 5 has got a lot of historic activities in it, and is currently occupied by Supervisor McGowan.
Yes.
And how long has he been there?
Well, Supervisor McGowan, he referred to himself as Bobby Bobcat McGowan. And he worked, of course, with Hinds County. And this is his forte. He's worked with Hinds County for 40 years.
Okay.
So he was a part of the Public Works Department, and he was very, very instrumental in doing roads and bridges and getting that kind of work done for the county. So he boasts that, and he brings that level of expertise to the board as well. He served. He went in 2016.
Now, I can tell you this, that I remember a good friend of mine that's no longer with us, Eric Stringfellow.
Yes.
He ran against Bobcat for that position as supervisor, and he was 16 points ahead going into a two-man runoff with Eric leading by 16 points. And somehow McGowan defeated Eric in that race. Wow. I could not understand how that happened back at that time, but some say that our distinguished congressman, Benny Thompson, played a major role in that decision.
Now, this is my first time hearing that, so I can't elaborate on that one for a while.
I've been around a long time. So Bobcat has drawn opposition.
Yes.
How many?
Don't hold me to the exact number, but he has the highest opposition in the race, and if I'm not mistaken, it's either 8. It's either 7 or 8. It may be 8 in the race and 7 opposition, or it's 8 in the race with him making 9 candidates.
Now, to draw 8 competitors is an unusual thing, and so obviously they either think that Mr. McGowan is vulnerable, or they think that they just bring something different to the mix. And so I know several of the people that are running in that race, and quite frankly, it's an interesting race. The candidacy of Malcolm Johnson comes to mind, and Malcolm has come by and visited with me and asked for my support in his candidacy in the run for that office. And Robert Ward has come as well. And Robert was a distinguished guy, a firefighter, had his own firefighting business. I played a lot of golf with his brother Preston. And so he's a great family. And I know that for a long time, Supervisor Kenny Stokes laid a heavy hand on in terms of who was elected in that runoff. So I asked Malcolm, I said, Malcolm, are you going to be able to get the support of Supervisor Kenny Stokes? And he said, absolutely. So I think Malcolm is probably going to be formidable to deal with in that race. I don't know the other 6 people. I know those 2. But you might shed some light on the capacity and credentials of the others.
You know, truthfully, because there's so many in the race, and I've got so many in my race, I haven't gotten those names of people. But the ones that you just mentioned are the ones that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Okay. I do know that Malcolm ran for the position 4 years ago, I believe, against Bobcat, and he was not successful at that time. As you know, Malcolm was the special project officer for Supervisor Archie. And so that was that political rift, if you will, that was generated. And so it is a campaign effort to try to remove Supervisor McGowan, because, as you know, when we went into office, there's this rule of the power of 3. And when we went in office, when I went in office, I didn't have, I campaigned on my own. I had no support from any of the other candidates other than the fact that I knew them and we may have spoken to each other in passing. But when we got to the swearing in, and after that, they had a pack had already been formed. And I often use the analogy that when I got to the building, they had locked the door on me. Okay, so I was locked out, and Bobcat was locked out. And so the power at that particular time was Robert Graham, David Archie, and Credell Calhoun. And from what I understand, and I mean, it was a show in its worst sense in terms of how the game was played against the 2 of us. And if you want to be entertained, even more so than what you see now from David Archie demonstrating his character on the screen now, go back and look at those that first year and a half, I would say 18 months of 2020 down through 6 months of roughly 4 months, I would say, of 2021.
Oh, okay.
And if you look at that, you'll see why all of the complaints and all of the uproar that is disturbing to him today is what he thoroughly enjoyed during that time frame.
Well, we're up against the break.
Okay.
And we're going to come back for our very last session, and we're going to spend some time talking about District 4.
We're welcome.
And so I want you to stay tuned, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Socrates Garrett ENT.com is a diversified firm specializing in recycled aggregates and crushed concrete. Socrates Garrett ENT.com's recycled materials provide the construction industry with significant economic and environmental benefits by recycling clean concrete rubble into M.DOT grade rock materials. Recycled aggregates and crushed concrete can be applied to driveways, road construction, bank protection, parking lots, general bulk fills, and more. For more information, please call 601-896-0084 or visit us online at SocratesGarrettENT.com.
Welcome back to Socrates Garrett Live. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi in the We Believe Digital Broadcast Studios. We've been seen all over the world. If you're watching us on Facebook, we want you to send us some stars and share this program with your friends and family. If you're watching us on YouTube, go on and subscribe to the program. We need your assistance there. We'd like to get up to 10,000 subscribers, and you can help us do that. If you're watching us on WeBelieveDigital.com, then we want you to hit the donate button and help finance this program. We're going to bring you articulate conversations, and we're going to deal with issues straight up. And we're not going to pull any punches, but we're going to deal with some tough issues as we go through this political season. And quite frankly, we are going to make certain that the narrative is not controlled by media that's primarily owned by non-African Americans. You know, African Americans represent about 10% of this population in America, and yet we, from a media standpoint, we get about 80% of the media coverage. It's almost amazing how we get so much attention as African Americans, and often we are portrayed in ways that is demeaning and uncomfortable for us, and therefore a lot of people don't offer themselves up for office, public service. Well, we need the most talented individuals, the most dedicated and committed individuals that we can elect to hold these offices so that they will manage this billion-dollar budget that we have here in Hinds County spread between 3 or 4 entities. And so it's critically important that we spend the time, understand the candidates, understand the roles and responsibilities and the capacity of the people so that we can move Jackson and Hinds County in Mississippi and the nation forward. There's never been a more critical time than it is right now today. This country is so divided. It's divided to a point where many feel that they are losing this country, and that was the fuel that gave us the January 6th riot in Washington, D.C. We are divided, and we are afraid, and we're not comfortable with one another. Here recently in the state of Mississippi, we have legislation that was just passed that takes Mississippi backwards. Many say that we are now a state that's operating under martial law because the state has passed a bill and implemented a separate police department right here in Hinds County, in the city of Jackson, where traditionally all of our law enforcement officers have been hired by an elected mayor who appoints the police chief. So we got some things going on that is creating a lot of unrest and divisiveness in Mississippi and this whole world. Now we're getting to a point where we are at the boiling point, we are at the tipping point. And unless we get great leadership, that stewardship that provides the right guidance through these difficult times, then we're going to find ourselves in some more difficult times. Now, we've talked about the national elections, we've talked about statewide elections, and we've talked about 4 of the 5 districts in terms of the Board of Supervisors. My guest here tonight, Supervisor Vern Gavin, a gentleman I've known for 50 years. I had a business, a travel agent business back in the 70s, the only African-American owned travel agency at that time, and maybe today. I've known him for a long time. He comes from up in the Neshoba County, country person, has enjoyed living in the country where you learn hard work, great work ethics, and a great deal of stability in the things that he's done. This is my guest. We're going to let him introduce himself, tell you a little bit about his background, where he came from, and then we're going to ask him some tough questions about his race for re-election. Vern, share with our viewers a little bit about who Vern Gavin is.
Thank you so very much. I'm from that little county called Noxubee. I know you said the word Neshoba, that's right there together.
That's close,
and that's close, and it's both named after the Choctaw tribal usage of words. I'm from Noxubee County, which is Macon. Most people who are familiar with that area would recognize it being from Macon, Mississippi. I went to school there. I graduated from high school in Aliceville, Alabama. From there, while I was growing up, my mother was a principal in Noxubee County. And she, of course, she worked there. And then, of course, they integrated the schools and consolidated schools. And then she became just a regular school teacher. And, of course, after, I think she had 45 years of teaching education in Noxubee County. And, of course, she retired. And, of course, she's gone now to heaven. But that was my upbringing in Noxubee County. I came to Jackson. I went to school at Mary Holmes Junior College, majoring in business. And I came to Jackson State and majored in accounting. And I later got a master's degree in business administration. I moved on to get certification as a certified business analyst, which prepares me to actually go in and assess business operations and determine where their weaknesses and strengths are. And that's one of my strongest fortes. My work experience, when I first got out of school at Jackson State, I moved to Houston, Texas, and I was working as a federal auditor with the Federal Home Loan Bank Board, where we did internal audits for savings and loans associations. And I worked there for a number of years, and after that I came back to Jackson and worked as a contractor with the National Business League, which was a business development organization under the U.S. Department of Commerce. I later left from there and went to form a partnership with three other gentlemen, and we formed Concept Limited Incorporated, and at that particular point we were independent contractors with the U.S. Department of Commerce to develop minority businesses on a national scale for in the United States. And just to name the people, it was Tom Espy, Art James, Richard Berger, and myself, Vern Gavin. We also formed a magazine. Many of you all who are around my age group would know it was called Sunbelt Magazine. Back in the day, and that magazine was very, very popular, but it did not sustain for an extended period of time, and it was primarily because Mississippi is a hard place to do a business of that sort because of the advertising laws and other things that restriction. And one of the things if you look in most of your magazines, you're certainly going to find alcoholic beverages. In Mississippi, you can't advertise through alcoholic beverage.
I didn't know that.
With magazines. So we had to expand our operation in order to be able to encompass those. That was back then. They may have changed the laws now. But they had to expand back then, and we had to open an office in Nashville, Tennessee, and one in Chicago in order to accommodate that and to do the marketing. And that was a bit much, even though it was aspiration to do so. But we had, of course, we was competing with Jet Magazine, which was already had footprint all over the place, as well as Ebony Magazine, Essence, and so forth, out of that Chicago market. So it just made it extremely difficult to catch on. So ultimately, we ended up closing that down. Moving forward from that, I started the travel agency business right during that same era. And we were the first black-owned travel agency in the state of Mississippi. It was, and when we say first black, that meant that we were certified by the Airline Reporting Corporation, which allowed us the same privileges to issue airline tickets that we have today. We can actually issue airline tickets and obligate the airlines for your passengers' travel. We're not selling third-class tickets, third-party tickets, if you will. We're actually selling our tickets.
You know, that's quite a resume. You've been involved in a lot of business activities. I forgot about Sunbelt magazine. I do remember that magazine. It was high quality.
Yes.
The photos were just absolutely outstanding, full color.
Right.
Magazine. And so I had forgot about that. So you've had your run as an entrepreneur.
I have, and it was a good run. I learned a lot working with the Department of Commerce, and we had, I never forget the story, and I'll just give you a little gist. 1 week, I had the experience, it was approximately about this time of the year, I had the experience of having to go to Florida. It was Miami, Florida. I had to spend 2 days in Miami, Florida. Then I had to go to Los Angeles, California. I had to spend 2 days in Los Angeles. And I had to leave Los Angeles and go to South Bend, Indiana. And I would never forget that experience because those other two climates was warm climates. So I had to pack accordingly. Okay. But when I got to South Bend, man, we couldn't, the automobiles couldn't even travel down the street. There was so much ice and snow on the road. So I never forget that.
Rawls used to say that mighty hawk.
Mighty hawk.
That mighty hawk.
Yeah.
Now, Vern, we're going to get to we're running out of time. So we got to get to your district. You're running for supervisor.
I'm running for re-election for supervisor in Hinds County, District Number 4. And as you know, that is the core of the county. That encompasses Clinton, Raymond, Byram, and South Jackson. Okay, portions of South Jackson. Okay. And so that's that little core area of the county that we represent. As you know, that's approximately 46,000 people that live in that area. So we're heavily populated, but that's what the new census says. We got to have a population of 46,000, so that's where we are. I ran this race 4 years ago on the promise that I was going to improve the social and economic conditions for Hinds County. And we are at the verge of making that happen now. What we're doing is, as you know, I was recently elected as the president for the board. And so as a part of the platform that we came in as president, with the aid of my predecessor, Credell Calhoun was president, we have formed a group now where we've done need analysis for Hinds County. And with those assessments, we've gone and had 18 different sections with various stakeholders in the community. And we've identified what the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats, that's SWOT, as you know, for Hinds County. And interesting, it was revealed that, with Hinds County, we have 8 institutions of higher learning. And that's, I would venture to say if you exclude the major cities like Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, and a few others, you wouldn't find that anywhere else. 8.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah. Okay. So what that says is that we have a lot of brain power in Hinds County that is being underutilized. And what we're doing is training our resources to go elsewhere and find employment and or to live. So what we have to do is a better job of once we recognize that, we have to do a better job of retaining that skill. And when you look at the retention for that, it gives us a market area in which we have to focus in order to do it. Our more high-skilled level positions, one iTech would be an area. So it's not just typical, and I'm not saying we don't need the manufacturers and other type industries, but that professional level is very vital as well. We got like Amazon, we got those companies that are coming in and they are paying good jobs. Well, we got the skilled labor here in Hinds County to service that. So we need to be going after that skill, and that's what this comprehensive plan is going to clearly put us on the right path as to how we can maximize the resources that we have here in Hinds County.
So, as I've asked about the other supervisors, have you drawn opposition?
Man, the interesting thing, I didn't draw them. I think my adversaries drew it for me.
Okay.
From what I understand, man, they've recruited everybody under the sun to get into the race with me. So I've got six. I've got six. One has indicated to me, seven, but one has indicated that he was going to drop out. And he's indicated that he just wanted to make certain that there were certain things that was not going to happen again. And it wasn't so much with me, it was with some others that was on the board that he wanted to be able to challenge. So in all that being said, he had indicated to me that he's going to drop out. So I don't know. I'm waiting for that to happen. Hopefully it will. But we've got, at this point, we've got at least six.
Well, I happen to know that the daughter of Charles Evers, Wanda Evers, has decided that she's going to run against you. She must be probably one of the people that has the greatest name recognition that's out there.
You certainly cannot dismiss the name Evers in Mississippi.
Right.
And you certainly can't take it for granted. And I'm not one to try to throw shade on anyone. What I know of Miss Evers is she's a wonderful lady. I don't think that she could do the job that I'm capable of doing in this position, but I think she's a wonderful lady, and I think that the people have to be able to look at my track record, look at my experience, and look at the things that I've done and I've attempted to implement, and now it's beginning to come to fruition. I think they need to look at those things and give me the opportunity to go forward from here. One of the things, and I think I asked this before, is we're throwing away that old saying, you're throwing the baby out with the bath water. Mm-hmm. I think it's the way it's said. Mm-hmm. Sometimes when you are displeased with one or two people on the board, then there's a normal mindset to let's just get rid of everybody, mm-hmm. instead of actually doing a round assessment and saying who is good and who's bad.
Okay. Well, Vern, I don't know where the time went. We are enjoying our conversation and our dialogue, and so we're going to have you back.
Okay.
There are some other issues and questions that I really want to get inside with you, and as president of the board, then you have a lot to say about the agenda. And I want to talk to you about, when you come back, I want to talk to you about minority participation and how that works in the county. I want to talk about the Republican Democratic makeup of your district, in terms of many think that you probably have more whites in your district and Republicans in your district than any other district in Jackson. With Hinds County being 85%, I guess the 15% is all in District 4. And so there are a lot of other things that I want to talk to you about. So would you agree to come back?
I would be more than happy to come back. It is my pleasure to sit here with you and have this discussion and to inform your constituents of what's going on in Hinds County. As I come back, but I also want to emphasize now that I'm up for re-election, and I do need their vote and support on August 8th in order for us to carry this mission forward.
How can they contact you?
Well, the number that they can contact with me is going to be area code 601-214-5656.
You heard it here at We Believe Digital. Now, you can watch this program anytime that you like. If you can watch it live, but if you decide you want to watch it at 10 o'clock tonight, go to WeBelieveDigital.com or go to YouTube on We Believe Digital Podcast and We Believe Digital, and you'll see that this program is aired there. Also, it will be there for your availability from now on. We archive it in our library, and at any time you want to go back and look at these shows on We Believe Digital, we have them there for you. We run out of time, so we want you to stay safe out there. Until next time, good night.
Good night.